So our next panel, Creating Real Intelligence and the Promise of AI. And so, again, we're going to have Claire Zhao lead this discussion about AI and what's up next for AI in education. And with her will be Jennifer Lee, Chief Growth Officer of Photomath, Quddus Pativada, CEO of DigestAI, Nishant Chandra, co-founder and director of Newton School, and Chaitali Moitra, Regional Director, South Asia, Turnitin, India Private Limited. And we're just going to give them a second to set up the chairs, and then we'll invite everyone to come up onto stage. Okay, great. I think we're ready to go. Panelists.
I'm back, if you haven't had enough of AI conversations, but I'm really stoked to be moderating this group. We've got a mix of builders in the AI space, those from the education institution background, and those figuring out how to manage this evolving and changing world of AI from pre-K to gray. I figured it'd be great to maybe just, level set, give everyone a context of how you all are engaging with this technology, what you're building. So I'd love for the speakers to maybe go around and give the audience a quick introduction of who you are, what you're working on, and how it relates to the AI education space. And maybe Jennifer first.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Lee. I'm the Chief Growth Officer at Photomath. So Photomath is the #1 math learning mobile app globally. We help students try to understand and get unstuck in their math learning journey by understanding what it is they're trying to learn at any given moment, and then providing them with very rigorous step-by-step explanations and other pieces of key information that helps them get to that aha moment. And what I'd also add is that we have long been focused on really using AI to try to understand what it is the student's learning, and now we see a big opportunity to continue pushing that in terms of really developing a personalized experience with a real emphasis on having empathy for what the student is going through.
Nishant.
Hi, I'm Nishant Chandra. I'm the co-founder at Newton School. We at Newton School are an online university which actually creates outcomes for our students. So it's a 8 to 12 months journey where we take the students from their first line of code to actually getting a job. And in this journey, we are a horizontal player, so we also have to figure out which parts of education is AI ready to get fit in, and how does that interact with the students? And it's a crazy challenge. We're loving it.
Hi, I'm Chaitali Moitra. I'm leading Turnitin in South Asia. So Turnitin, as maybe few of you would know, and many would know maybe, is the leading integrity and academic solutions provider, for assessments. And our job, we are detecting AI writing for researchers and students, and trying to weave in the good of AI writing along with, what could be some of the loopholes that we should avoid. Thanks.
Quddus Pativada, founder of DigestAI. We're leveraging large language models to provide a one-on-one tutoring experience to all students that's accessible 24/7, while still giving visibility to teachers around their performance.
That's awesome. I'd love to maybe ask those from the startup angle a little bit more about how you all are leveraging AI and delivering that technology to learners. And I'd also love to hear a little bit more about how AI is now able to do something that maybe wasn't possible a year ago. And I'll maybe give it to you, Quddus, first.
Yeah, sure. So our entire platform is based on AI. So we use large language models to pretty much mimic how a tutor would act with a student, mimicking that entire interaction with a layer on top that could also deduce what a student's strong in, what a student's weak in, and then relaying that information back to the teacher to drive classroom insights. In terms of what was possible a year ago, I don't think AI has changed so much from a year ago to today. I think the biggest change has definitely been the explosion in reinforcement learning with human feedback. That was something that, until last year wasn't really possible, at least for a startup to do. But now there's a bunch of companies coming out, and it's just much more possible from a math angle to do that. But from in purely a tech space, I don't think the space has changed too much, apart from ChatGPT coming out, which the tech was there for a while, but they've just been able to execute on it really well. But yeah, I think the space is still there. I think now we're just entering an age where startups and also incumbents are really utilizing it to the full potential, rather than just letting it stay buried in research papers.
Jennifer, you all have been building a very popular AI native solution for a while. Do you feel similarly? Are you all leveraging some of the more recent advancements in AI? How are you all thinking about the evolving space?
I would definitely agree with the fact that the reinforcement learning models are becoming very interesting and a bright opportunity, I think. One of the areas where I'd say we have seen a lot of advancement that I think was faster than we actually anticipated is around some of the accuracy of these models. Now, it's not at the level yet today that a student can really garner sufficient trust to utilize it fully and without additional thought or any, which we would never want them to do anyways. But I would say that the advancement and the near future in which we see the accuracy levels being achieved in terms of some of the response rates is happening at a much faster rate.
And so I guess on this notion of trust, I think a big issue that has come up again and again is around what the future of cheating and academic integrity looks like in this space. I'm sure we've all seen students just copy and paste something from ChatGPT, but we've also seen, I think, a lot of use cases in which this technology is helping them learn. So I'd love to kind of open the floor to hear how you all are thinking about the future of academic integrity as it relates to the world of both AI-generated content, ChatGPT. How should we think about measuring learning and measuring outcomes for our learners?
That's for me? Okay. See, industry has welcomed ChatGPT or any AI solution, right? And for long we have been using it. I think what the big challenge that has come about is that how it could be used ethically. It's basically by the students, the researchers, because it can be a tool which will be really helping them. Even teachers can be helped in terms of the assignments that they give. Even students, when they're submitting a paper, can probably refer to it for pointers. But how to use it and how to weave it in is very important. And that is where our detection tool, which we have designed, and we're going to roll it out by end of April, has 97% accuracy so far. And what we're looking at is it that blindly the student went online and used ChatGPT to write a response? Or is it that it's a process of drafting that they did? So it is, how the academicians, and I would say especially the teachers, interact with the students in driving the use of OpenAI in a manner to where it benefits the student community as well as it ensures that creativity is not compromised on.
On the cheating part, so we are essentially an educational institution, so we also want students to learn how to use the AI tool as a buddy, as a co-pilot, to build better and better projects. So what we'll try to do as these things advance is shift the bar up and up. Currently, their evaluation, or where we say the students stand, comes from the assignments, the practice that they've done. But more and more, it will move towards creative projects. How have they thought about the start of the project? What did they expect at the end of the project? And how did they use the AI tools to build it? So we expect the portfolios of students to get more and more creative as we go forward.
As maybe Quddus and Jennifer, as some of the startups delivering these tools, are you seeing any sort of bad reception of AI-driven education tech tools? How are you seeing maybe teachers ban it or adopt it? What are kind of the educator reactions that you all are seeing?
Yeah, I think the sentiments has definitely changed. It still varies depending on the person you speak to, but I think the thing that teachers and institutions are really trying to grasp with is they think AI is a tool for creation, and that's where the essay writing and creative work becomes a concern. But the pitch that we're trying to tell teachers and institutions, and the pitch that should be made around AI is it's not a tool just for creation, but it's really a tool for consumption. Like, this is the first time ever that students actually have the power to like speak to a book. If I looked at a definition of inflation, I could ask it to be simplified. I could ask it to be, expanded on, and that was something that wasn't possible even last year today. So I think teachers and institutions, when they see it from an angle of consumption rather than creation, their concerns are definitely subsided. But it sort of varies across the board. I mean, you see teachers in Dubai being really open to the idea of using AI, and then you see professors in the UK being really against it. So I definitely do think it's just a matter of time before teachers start to grasp with the idea of it being used for consumption rather than creation. And I think in the creation aspect, it still is a large concern outside of coding tools. You never want to use an AI tool for essay writing. It doesn't make sense for a student to sort of sacrifice their writing ability or their learning journey in that aspect. But yeah, the pitch we give teachers and the pitch that they're sort of getting more and more convinced by is using it as a tool for consumption rather than creation.
To use a cliche, I think everyone just kind of recognizes, and teachers do as well, that the genie is out of the bottle and you can't put it back in. I mean, if you think about in the math learning space, the calculator originally was considered a cheating tool, right? If you couldn't do the process of the calculation, then you were not truly learning. At this point in time, it's really about how do you utilize tools, and we also recognize that these tools are going to be really important in the future when it comes to your jobs, how do you utilize them in the workforce, and part of education, even at the younger ages, even at the middle school, elementary, and high school level, is about creating an educated workforce that's prepared for the future. And so I think there's also a strong recognition among many teachers that they need to help students understand how to utilize these tools well and how to apply them in a way that starts fostering additional thinking, problem solving, and utilizing the information that exists in the world.
Nishant, as maybe on the institution front, how are you all, I think, preparing your students or AI-proofing your students for a workforce that is where AI is going to be pervasive?
Yeah, so in terms of workforce and companies, companies want their employees to know as much about AI tools as possible, right? So there will be pressure from the companies as well on the institutions that they should know how to use Copilot well. Even BuzzFeed, I think, doubled its valuation just by announcing that they're writing through AI. So even fields like English literature, I'm sure pretty soon there will be economic pressure to learn how to use and utilize these tools. So we want our students to be industry ready, know the best tools, and learn how to work with them. And in terms of using AI to learn, what we've seen is, as everyone mentioned, the difference has been exponential, fairly dramatic. So even early last year, we were using a lot of tools to sort of transcribe the lectures, the sessions that students have with different experts. And we were seeing a lot of mistakes. Something like a linked list, which is a programming concept, being mistaken as cyclist or something like that. And the AI had problems, the models had problems catching Indian accent and also converting from Hindi to English and stuff like that. Month over month, we saw 10% jump every 4 to 6 weeks as Whisper released, as GPT-3 released, as ChatGPT released. So the advances have actually been exponential, and coding is at the forefront. And for coding, we very strongly see over the last couple of quarters, coding will become much, much more powerful with the students. So it is inevitable. Holding it off is maybe going to work for some time, but not for long. So we have to adopt.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And Chaitali, you, I think, are engaging with a lot of other institutions. Are you seeing any sort of hesitation at all? How are you all, I think, bringing in the educators and making sure that they have a full understanding of the potential of this tech, and then bring an educator in the loop?
See, there have been concerns, as we are talking to institutions across the world, in fact. If I look at it from South Asian context, I mean, there has not been yet so much of a hype created about it. Maybe because, I hate to say this, but I think in India, it was quite okay to learn by heart and give out stuff, right? And you just kind of produce what you see in books. I think what is happening now and the concern that is coming about, especially in the research community, because we do talk to a lot of researchers, is the critical thinking skills of children from an early age going to be hampered or not? Because end of the day, AI is artificial intelligence, right? So I think the main concern is how we use it. Like when we go back and talk about the calculator, this child was still taught 2 times 2 is equal to 4. Okay, and they were not given the calculator at that age. So probably it is how you set boundaries in terms of what can be used and how you weave into the workflow. And our detection tool that we're looking at is actually assisting teachers in not saying, you know, we look at contents from database that is with us, from different repositories. And it is kind of like trying to segregate and say, okay, fine, has the student completely done cheating per se in terms of doing it, or has there been their own thoughts? Because, you know, AI assisted writing is very predictive by nature. So you can actually detect that it is something that it has been just taken away from, you know, taken out from the AI tool. So this is what we are looking forward to in working with the institutions.
Yeah, I think it's every single day is evolving. So it's fascinating seeing what you all are building, how you all are adapting. I'd like to switch gears a little bit because we have a lot of investors and entrepreneurs in this audience. And I think as founders and those very deep in this space, there's a lot of questions about how to build in this ecosystem. If I'm not necessarily an AI native company, how do I build in this tech? How do I leverage it? But I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you all think about building in this ecosystem. Is it going to be, I don't think it's going to be like, but is it going to be ChatGPT and everyone else? Where do you see value truly accruing? Maybe I'll kick off with Jennifer.
I might be saying something rather obvious, but at the end of the day, I think it's actually about still building really great product and understanding the user experience, right? So for us, we talk about artificial intelligence accompanied with real empathy. So at the end of the day, yes, data sets will be important, right? Those will be helpful in terms of training your model, improving them, all that kind of stuff. But if you can't tie that into a great user experience that truly addresses the user's needs, I don't care how much data you have.
I'd actually like to double click a little bit on, so I guess you hear a lot about how I think the keys to success is maybe ingredients of having both a mix of data, distribution, and speed. How do you see that playing out in maybe incumbents that do have that data and distribution versus maybe a new entrant that is only starting to build an application for, you know, those respective verticals?
I mean, I think that the new entrants have a lot of ability, right? You can build actually these data sets relatively quickly these days, and in a way that was not possible, you know, 5-10 years ago. You can leverage and integrate through various different APIs and all this kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, it's just a question of who's really thinking about how to use this information well and how to create the good experience. So, you know, new entrants can build great product and can think well about what are the user needs in ways that are not. They can often do it in a really highly focused form, right? Really addressing a specific use case that truly addresses a strong need within the market and then leverage and grow from there.
Yeah, so I'll also give a perspective of an institution which has a lot of products and is shifting to becoming an AI-first education institution, right? It's all online. So what we saw with the advent of AI models last year was that there is tremendous opportunity. You can generate content very quickly. You can generate a lot of MCQs that go along with the classrooms. You can have a lot of doubt solvers, which are AI doubt solvers, which help the students when they're solving the questions and are stuck in it. You can have doubt solvers, which are there during the class with the students, and they can ask the questions to those doubt solvers, which they don't understand in the class. They can actually create projects with someone. So the places where AI can be integrated is tremendous. I mean, it's all across the board, all across the value journey. And as a company which was not AI first earlier, we had to figure out what to pick. So it's very important to understand which parts to pick, which parts are mature in the ecosystem. And the second important part for us was to set up a dedicated AI team. Usually these projects, which are reporting directly to the, founders or the top leadership, or somehow or the other. Because for a couple of months, it seemed like that the projects got lost. So they have to be separated out. That's like super, super important. And we also involve a lot of mentors from India, US. Quddus is our latest mentor, which I'll integrate into our team. To know what's the state of art, because the state of art is changing so rapidly. We've literally had put in models which we had to replace like 3 weeks later just because a much more efficient thing came into the picture. So those are the few things that we are doing. But as Jennifer said, we truly believe even for new incumbents, the areas that you can add value and being very close to the student or the user is so important in innovation, where the new players have a really good chance of making phenomenal products. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, talking about AI, I was just thinking when Nishant was speaking, that we have always used AI, right? Like we have an assessment tool called GradeScope. It has been using AI to where, we know how to do the rubrics, we do everything. But I think the biggest benefit to the teaching community has been actually in helping in getting those MCQs up, those questions up, which are very relevant. I think the only challenge that we are finding, the question that has been coming out from the education community to us, from schools that we meet or from colleges that we have been visiting is that, okay, fine, how do I ensure that the student is self-reliant? I think it is from the learning side that there is a challenge. It is not, as he rightly put it, it's for consumption. And that is something which people should understand. It cannot, there's the good aspects have always been there. AI is always improving. It is going to improve further. And I'm sure the challenge will increase for us also as a detection tool in keeping up with the, AI and the fast evolving way. It's, I don't know what direction it's going to finally lead to. But I think out of that all is what we need to look at is, what about the students? What about our learners? Are we creating people who still will maintain their creativity? Are we still going to have students who can actually write an essay or write a poem which is on their own? So will they stop thinking critically? That is, I think the question that is facing the education community today.
And Quddus, as maybe considered one of these new entrants, how are you thinking about the space?
Yeah, I think as a startup, it's pretty important to distinguish yourself, because with language models, a lot of people, there's very cool products to be built, but and I think we fell into the trap as well when we first started out. Is you're either an actual product or you're meant to be a feature, right? A lot of AI companies that are out there today are very easily just meant to be features in Microsoft Word, or they're just supposed to be features in another app. I think it's pretty important to actually begin building a platform and use language models and AI as a feature of your own product rather than a feature of somebody else's. So I think it's pretty important, and like Jennifer said, I think the most important thing is still just focusing on the end user. Like when you think about moats and when a startup in the space thinks about moats, is what most startups when they first started out really didn't have that strong of a moat. I think network effects still play a pretty strong role. I think your distribution channels play a pretty strong role, and that doesn't change just because you're using a different sort of technology. I definitely do agree though that the value will be accrued a lot in companies like OpenAI and NVIDIA, but you're seeing that change quite a lot as well with the barriers to building your own models, get increasingly lower. A model that used to cost $10-20 million to build now costs anywhere from $200,000 to $500,000 to build, which for a startup isn't super ambitious. So yeah, I definitely do think startups. The biggest challenge for startups is differentiating whether they're a feature or an actual product, and I think a lot of startups fall into the trap of just building something really cool and something that's meant to be a project and trying to build that into a startup. But the space is continually evolving. I think a lot of the startups that we're seeing today may not be around 3 months from now, and a lot of the startups we see 3 months from now will look completely different from the startups we see today.
Yeah, I think I'd like to flip it to maybe, there's a lot of potential in this space, but there's also a ton of negatives around, I think there's discourse around people getting displaced, jobs being taken away, AI being, taking away skills of our K-12 learners. And so I'd love to maybe dig a bit deeper into how should we be thinking about who gets potentially left behind in this world of AI learning? How do we stop that gap that already exists from widening even more? And yeah, I would love to keep it open to anyone.
Yeah, in terms of gaps, right? So India has hundreds of languages, right? But the current models are mostly geared towards English or maybe slightly Hindi, but mostly European languages. So that is one place where a lot of non-English speaking folks might get a bit disadvantaged, but I think that should catch up very quickly. And in addition to that, so it can evolve two ways. Either there are products which are like Google search or YouTube, which everyone can use, or there are products which are charging you like AWS. So the AI products which are like AWS would not be able to reach folks who are not able to pay for it, but I'm happy to see how it evolves, but would love to know the thoughts of others as well.
I think AI is very expensive, right? And if you look at the Indian economy, and though Digital India is the initiative that the government has taken, I think we still have a long ways to go. And there will always, we are talking about AI right now in context of the metro cities, right? We are talking in terms of more elite crowd, I would say. But if you really look at the masses, like if you go to the inside of India, I think it still has a long way to go. So if you look at skill gap promotion, that's why the government and the new NEP policy, they're talking about having courses parallel to your college education that students need to take in online mode. And I think it will get reduced, but I don't think it will go away for a country like India. It's going to stay over here. And AI will be benefiting, yes, but definitely a certain percentage of the population. And I'm sorry if I'm sounding too forthright about it, but I believe in calling an ace an ace. I mean, I don't think in India we are going to be a time where all the education community, because if you look at colleges in suburban India, they don't even right now know how to write in English. I mean, they don't even write papers in English. So you cannot, say that, AI is going to take India by the storm. No, it won't. But definitely certain segments, certain sectors are benefited. And as I started by saying, the industry is very benefited through OpenAI. I think that is one thing which has helped the industry. The industry is looking forward to it. It will help coding. It is going to help in certain segments of marketing, of communication, and all those streams. But end of the day, whether it reaches down to the bottom line, that we are yet to see.
I would like to build off what Chaitali was saying, in that, obviously being able to create these AI-driven co-pilots or tutors that can help, the student who has to finish up their volleyball practice and doesn't come home till 10 o'clock at night, or might live in, a second or third tier city and not have access to the same level of resources. I think it's definitely an opportunity for people to help become more independent and self-engaged learners, but at the end of the day, we still have the critical issue around the fact that there is a huge chunk of the population where the schools are not currently set up to be able to teach things like critical thinking, how to structure an argument.
Yes.
These are actually the fundamental skill sets that will be essential to being able to utilize these tools well in the future. So I do think there's actually a really big risk in the near and intermediate term that education, formal education, some of these fundamental skill sets are not built into the curriculums appropriately to help people really utilize these tools well. So while we are obviously huge proponents and we think it's really important to be able to create access for that supplemental time to be able to help students be independent learners on their own time, it's still critical in the schools that they're teaching these kind of base transferable skill sets.
Yeah, I love that it's dead on. And I know we're coming up on time, so I'd love to, I think, leave on maybe more positive note around where are you all as at the front of this, or at the forefront of a lot of this change, are most excited about in the AI space? Where do you think there is the most opportunity to build, and what are you most looking forward to seeing evolve? Maybe I'll start with Quddus.
Me personally, I'm obviously very excited about education. I think education is one of the few industries where AI could be leveraged, and even if you have 5 users, you're all of a sudden, changing the lives of those 5 people. Obviously, we're not targeting 5 users, but it is a very unique industry in the way where, it's the first time that technology's gotten to a point where you're able to benefit students and teachers at an equal pace, which necessarily hasn't been done in the past. And education as a whole has been an industry that hasn't seen a lot of innovation. Like when I was in high school, the biggest thing that happened was we were allowed to bring our iPads into school and read our textbooks on the iPad. But now you have the ability to integrate AI into your learning, get personalized learning routes, take the effort off the table for the student and also take the effort off the table for the teacher, allowing them both to do what they do best and what's best for them. I think education is definitely the largest industry that should be and hopefully will be impacted by the whole revolution. But yeah, I think education's a space that I'm quite excited about, especially in that teacher-student interaction. I think is the first time we've had the opportunity to really see true innovation in that area.
True, and I'm sure I'm looking forward to the opportunity it will provide to the masses. I really am, and because as we go and we meet more and more institutions, I hope, using it judiciously and incorporating it learning ecosystem is very important, and that is what we hope that we can help educators do.
So AI might as well replace a lot of jobs. So I think education with AI can fill that gap, right? So retraining, training people very, very quickly to take up new roles. So pretty excited about that in education in AI. And particularly in education, I am super, super excited about the thing that the last talk also talked about is personalization, right? Getting someone there with you in your, teaching with your tastes and helping you when you are falling down and so on and so forth, right? That a personal teacher does for you. So I think that's very, very lacking. We have sort of commoditized the whole education system to work in a very standardized way. And as that evolves, I think we will see a lot of creativity come out. So that's pretty exciting.
So I'm really excited on two fronts. One, as a digital product, we've been global from day one. And one of the areas that I've always been saying is like, how do we continue to serve a student in Jakarta learning in Bahasa Indonesia, or a student in Tripoli, as well as we can serve a student in Topeka, Kansas. And I think that while the LLMs today are more focused on the English language, I think there's ability to build data sets and others and to be able to build it in various, serves students in multiple different languages. And the second area that I'm really excited about is also that, pen and paper aren't disappearing. It is a great way for students to work out their thoughts, to write down how they're thinking, all that kind of stuff, and actually to be able to now integrate what they're doing on pen and paper into the digital experience through some of these advancements in technology is really something that we're very excited about at Photomath.
That's awesome. I know we're up on time, but join me in giving them a round of applause. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Claire and panel. I think